back to Superhuman Customs. I'm Stephen Human. Last week, we did Black Adam. This week, we're doing Shazam. I figured that would be, a fun little twofer for us to be able to have those two characters together. Now, this is obviously the movie Shazam, just like the movie Black Adam from last week. And what we're gonna do with him is very similar. We're going to do some really simple, we're gonna go over with some wash. We're going to put some gold in some of these areas, similar to what we did with the Wonder Woman. You guys have seen with some of these figures how having a good game wash just from Vallejo makes such a massive difference. But first, what I want to do is we're going to play around with this cape a little bit. I'm going to heat it up and see if we can get it to fold so that it's not quite so big and broad. So let's jump into that first.
All right, we got boiling water. Just put his cape in.
Is natural here?
Gonna soak it.
Yes.
And then I'm going to mold it. I want it to look like this. So let's see if it will hold.
The cape molded pretty well. I'm happy with that. And now we're gonna go through with our wash. Just as we did with Wonder Woman, just as we did with the Flash, we're gonna go over all of this guy. Now the reason that this works so well with these movie figures is because they have so much texture. Now you don't necessarily need to do this with like comic-based characters where you want them to be bright. Some people do it and they do a beautiful job by going through and accenting all the muscles and stuff. But you don't necessarily have to with comic book based characters just because, they're meant to be big and bright. With these movie figures though, because of these textures, it really does go a long way to making them look more realistic. And when I have this guy up on the shelf with the other movie figures, my goodness, he does not match because he is so bright and detailless. And you don't want your figures looking that way, especially when the others look so darn good. I am going to get his symbol. Now what that's going to do is going to deaden some of the color a little bit, but I'm going to go over it with some gold after this to just like a dry wash. So I am going to get these gold parts. That makes it really easy because then you're not having to worry about going around all this. You just get it and then do a dry brush over the top, and I'll show you that in a minute. Same thing with his gauntlets. Put a little bit more, make sure that it gets into those cracks and stuff, and then if you want to wipe, you can use your finger, you can use a piece of toilet paper. I forgot to grab a piece of toilet paper, so I'm just going to use my finger, and I'm fine with that. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to accent some of these muscles underneath. Just do another layer just under here, and that will just add a little bit of shadow. Not too much, but enough that it now becomes a little bit more noticeable. I'm gonna do that with all kind of these little lines in here, the muscle lines. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm just gonna put a little bit in some of these lines on the cape. Just a little. And I got a little bit more water on the brush just to make it so that it's less, but it's beating up a little bit. So I'm going to move it around and just see how it ends up looking, whether or not that adds, because the cape has very little personality right now. It is white, obviously. I'm just going to see if this will work. We'll all find out together. Okay, what I figured out is that after going over it and using up most of it, and if I kind of go back over, it puts a nice light gray. So right here on these accents, that's all I'm doing. Is just, I haven't gotten any more. Just using what's already left on the brush and just putting a couple of lines. And it's going on nice and subtle, which is great because we don't want it to be too dark. We just want to have a hint of some shadow here. I think he's gotten a little bit too dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little bit of red and I'm going to dry brush some red on over the top, just over some of these muscles here. Just to lighten him up a little bit so that he's not quite so dark in some of these areas. Remember, when you're dry brushing, you want to just get a little bit of paint and then like dust it in a paper towel or a piece of toilet paper. Just go over the top because you want to hit these upper ridges, not the lower stuff where the wash has settled. You want to hit the higher areas so that you have that accent. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the gold. Just dry brush it on over the top. Have it hit those edges. That's all we want. Same thing on the belt. Probably need a little bit more. Just dust it. Just you want to hit those edges so that the wash remains in the little crevices and the gold hits everything else. Oh, it's looking good. And there we go. There's Shazam. He looks so much better in my opinion, and now lines up better with the other movie figures on the shelf. He's just got more of that tone of realism, and it didn't take that much work. Now you got to be careful when you're going over the cape. I figured that out by basically getting as little wash on the brush as possible, and then it worked pretty well. And if you went kind of quick, like I would just kind of go in the lines and just one swipe, and that tended to be enough. So he looks really, really good. I'm excited. He's gonna look perfectly up there with the other movie figures. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, tell your friends if you guys are into action figures, you just wanna have some fun and maybe learn a trick or two as I screw up and sometimes succeed. This is your channel. I'm Stephen Human with Superhuman Customs. Go ahead and go to stephenhuman.com if you guys wanna learn more about my novels, because I am a novelist. And if you just wanna see all that goodness, if you guys like Twilight Zone, that sort of thing, I'm your guy, stephenhuman.com. I'll see you next week.